It's September 1st, 2021. I was speaking to Linda before. I'm like, Lynn, I was like, let me ask you a question. I was like, thematic of the day, of course. I was like, there's 3 different Americas. There's South America, Central America, North America. Why is it like there's so much room to stretch out? Why has, like, I feel like that all of South America and Central America, like, aimed and, like, headed for New York. And she's like, what? And I'm like, it just does. So then I went up on the boulevard, and I asked, there's this one guy in a Spider-Man t-shirt, but he was on the phone with somebody outside of a Thai restaurant, Taiwanese. And then I spoke to the other guy. He had some kind of, like, I don't know, Chinese writing or Korean writing or some other symbols I don't read on his shirt. He said he was born in 1991 and he was from Flushing. I was like, all right, good. So, Mr. 1991, I said, I'm 1978. I was like, so, you got to think about it. I was like, Flushing, you heard about the World's Fair. He goes, yeah. I go, okay, now tell me, what do your people say? Like, what was the World's Fair? Like, why was that such a big push? What did that open New York City up to? Why did it become like an epicenter and like a mecca where like everybody was like taking aim for Queens and Manhattan and New York City within our lifetime, 1991? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I don't know. And I go, yeah, I get that. But what's scary is what doesn't belong here and what made the trek here, they seem to know something or they're up to something. And he's like, I see that. So I'm like, all right, fair enough. So this whole mask thing that they got going on, it's one of those social, like, civil obedience, disobedience things. I was like, but what are your feelings? I was like, about this tent just opening up, like, uninvited. I asked them if they had a street permit. They said no. They said yes. I asked to see it. They said no. And I'm like, what, am I just supposed to take you? This New York? What do you want me just supposed to take you? Like, word for it, right? And he's like, oh, yeah, no, that's crazy. And I'm like, yeah, no, I get that. I was like, no, I'm just, and then he had to go get his lunch. And I was like, yep, nope, I'm good. So, that happened. So I'm like, okay, so now, and then I came home and I spoke to Miguel. That's what he said. He said he liked to be called Mickey. And I'm like, that's not a good name for me to ever call you. I was like, because I didn't tell him I got Mickey Sticker Club issues going on. But I'm like, no, I will just, like, Miguel, that's the one. So we're just going to stick, because I got Mike and I got Murphy. It's law and lawyers. This is, like, whatever. So, he said something. He had a nice, like, British cap on. I was like, what do you call that type of hat? And he goes, I don't know. He said, I call it British. And I was like, well, yeah, no, I get, that's the flavor of, like, the classical style. I think they call it millinery, something along those lines, a hat maker. I was like, but I don't have access to, like, I don't know, like, vocabulary like that. And he's like, and so he's like Spanish, and I'm like, he's like, in Spanish, and I'm like, so he told me 2 things about Spanish, and I was like, when I hear Spanish, when somebody speaks the word Spanish to me, I was like, I think span, because, like, when you're going to build something, and you use the word S-P-A-N, span, it means it's broad, and then it's got to support weight. So now when you say Spanish, that means, like, a really large foundation for me. So, like, I'm listening. Just know I might not jump conclusions with you quite as fast as, like, you may anger with me if you're not patient with me. So whatever. In this New York scenario, it has not been interesting or fun or, like, obtainable. And then, like, towards the end of the conversation, he's like, you just see, like, maybe you're in the wrong body. And I'm like, whoa. I was like, that is the way you guys explain it. I was like, you know what? I was like, several attempted murders on my person. I know I'm deployed. I'm displaced in space and time. I'm in the wrong area. I was like, but I don't know how to fix it. And he was like, and he had said that he was with the Navy, and I was like, well, now, lucky for you. I was like, he's like, well, you know, I mean, it wasn't, and I was like, yeah, but see, I've been observing around here. There was no entry point to this so-called Navy. Like, where's this Navy? Like, how do you enter it? And so then he got, like, really silent, and then he just walked off, and I was like, yeah, I get that. I mean, again, and so now, if we lined up on a wall, or, like, on a shelf, beer bottles, there's 99 shades. Well, there's 99 bottles. Some of them are brown bottles, some of them are green bottles, and some of them are clear bottles, whatever that means. And then some, they all have labels on them. But I can't see so well from over here, so I just know the outline of the bottles. It's hard to go up to each one and read everything. So that's how I approach humans, is like, you're a bottle of beer. I just don't know if you're a clear bottle, if you're a green bottle, or if you're, for lack of a better word, the color brown bottle. Sometimes they say butter beer, and I'm like, ugh. I was like, butter in your beer? I was like, that sounds really gross. And then I'm like, but then the word in the vernacular in New York City got really bad with the word B-U-T-T. It became like butane. So I was like, yeah, fuego, like, bad idea. So I'm like, what if we reverse it and then we just go with beer butter? Like, is that better? Because I still need something linguistically. I was like, listen, I was expecting a golden goose that turned into a golden oven roasted turkey that then somehow became a roast beast problem and turned into a roast beef in New York. With the European Union, we play rugby and we play cricket and we play polo, right? Those kids, they only hear the word football and think of the soccer ball. I, in my nightmare of three Americas, one Mecca, one epicenter, and everybody converging into my area, had to set up a roast beast with beef eater understanding and communication method, and a different word for the word football, since football turned to a roast beef color, weird-shaped ball, indicative of the gamma radiation problem I am encountering in New York, with a goalpost that was also misshapen out of the original gamma and photon. So now so now if you have KAREEM SAID, right, but it looks like KAREEM said, S-A-I-D, that's what the Americans think, because the kiddos around here, they weren't really given big things, right? Okay, so now I got KAREEM said, that's an Islam, we're on the lam, but we got a Creole Christian connection of we don't get angry at first because we know we all have bottles of beer up on the shelf and we don't know whatever and whatever. So then I've got, he worked at something called an Oz, O-Z, but that's different than my Dorothy and the basket with the little dog and the Tin Man, the lion, and the scarecrow, right? That's my level of Oz. I didn't watch your show because I heard it was not so nice. Those are for your professional scary leagues, and does this for a living in law enforcement. I am not. I mean, I will listen, but I stay home. Let's just put it that way. Out of harm's way. Alright, so now, I have that in Oz. Oh, and then I'm like, okay, so now in big science area, since they're taking care of the KAREEM SAID version of TV production Oz, which is all sorts of production of real life that you might watch on voyeur TV, which I don't like to get to that level of humanity. I'm not that interested in the animal. There's something called LaTeX. It's a capital L, it's a small alpha, and then it's a large T, and then it's an E, and then it's an X. It sounds like latex, but then that gets weird with the Kareem Sid Oz kids. And so I'm like, listen, this is my version of Saxony and Sexy New York, and it has a yellow latex paint over some NICO pavers that used to be blue cobblestone. And that's like the God's honest truth. And I don't know how you humans effed it up, but like there's my understanding, and then there's the guy's locker room that fucked up the turkey, the roast beef, the game of soccer, and the game of football. And then all the language that's interacted by painting latex paint over red bricks that they laid themselves because they're ingenuity. And I'm like, I don't like your bottles of beer ever saying the word ingenuity when it comes to me, and I need blue cobblestone, and I want to go back to the cobble blocks, and I want to fix this red brick road with latex paint all over it from all the kids with ingenuity that we did not invite into ingenuity school. How do I fix that level problem? I just saw something in Queens. There's this white Ukraine man who has a chin like my own, and he seems to be accepted by some of the North Americans and some of the travelers. Some of the traveling team, we'll call it. He met with something called a landlord, but that looks like a leftover illegal occupation from a former case of, does anything get resolved in this disgusting North America for the real people, or do we just let the new kids that are here illegally get educated and then come up with new schemes to cause all sorts of trouble? Because it's kind of what it feels like, just saying. So I put that up there. In something called a moratorium. I'm like, usually that comes in cemetery with cremation. There's moratoriums in cemeteries because from seminary level of high ministry, and there's a king somewhere whose woman you all keep beating. Right, yeah, he's getting real angry, and he's got a couple of friends, right, in the world that have been watching over this, and they're just waiting when they need to jump in, and when this makes sense enough that they cover all of their silver, gold, and their children in mass mentality, will start listening back to them, because I think they lost control at some point. It's a really scary world this century 20 you all created and latexed over the brick original cobblestones, and you pulled up every cobblestone, examined them, and then built with red adobe brick that is clear as fucking day in my tunneling service. Star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. September 1st, 2021, Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe, and its Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.